Whenever you're ready.
Today I'll be talking about young Americans and politics. How many of you voted in the last presidential election? How many of you could not? So some of you. Well, 59.7% of the American population did not vote in that election. That's over half. It's relative to you because you are the young Americans I'm going to be talking about today. The topic for today is young Americans and politics and why we should lower the voting age. I have researched this topic for the past few weeks, and I also voted last year, not also in the presidential election, but in my local community election. Today we're going to talk about, or I will talk about, young Americans' lack of interest in politics, why they don't participate in politics, both opinions on lowering the voting age, and how you can personally take action to solve this issue. Every generation has a low percentage of young Americans' participation in politics. As you can see here, the baby boomers, as they started out, they had less participation, but right here, they have more. And like the 60s right here, they have more right here. So every generation starts out not participating when they're like in their 18 to 24 range. But as they get older, they find that's more important to vote. This is the decrease of younger Americans' interest in politics. They decreased in roughly the past 30 years, and I will show you in the next slide. Everyone is directly affected, especially the younger generation. If we're letting the older generation decide our future, then it may not go the way that we want it. Some policies or laws take some up to 20 years to go into effect. So 20 years down the road, America may be changing, and that may be how we want it to go. So we should take initiative and vote for ourselves. On this slide is the 18 to 29-year-olds from 1978 to 2012. And as you can see, voters decreased in their participation. And now this is the overall election. This says 64% and this is 61. 48 and 41. So this is just America in general. And so why young Americans are not interested in politics. They don't have responsibilities, and they have a lack of involvement of government politics when they're growing up. They don't have to pay taxes or provide health care or anything. They have a fear of not being heard or taken seriously. They have fear of not having enough education on the topic. They haven't graduated high school. Why should they be credible? And they have no idea how to take part in their community or how to vote. And this is from Grace D. Commentary. Seriously dropped the municipal voting age to 16 because she's credible because she's on the executive board of Vote 16 Illinois, and she's a non-partisan student-led organization that aims to lower the voting age in municipal elections. Why do some people think that the voting age should not be lowered? Young Americans are not educated enough to vote. They haven't graduated high school. They don't have a high school diploma. They're easily persuaded. We don't know what we want in our life. We just go with the first thing we see. Young Americans are not mature enough. They're emotional, impulsive, and reckless. The 26th Amendment lowered the voting age from 21 to 18 in 1971. This was because of the draft for the Vietnam War. They say that since we don't have a draft going on today, we shouldn't lower the voting age again. There's no reason. Old Americans say that they were personally unstable at 16 and didn't know much about politics. So why should they trust us if they knew they weren't reliable at 16? And the vast majority of criminals are in the range of 16 to 24. I wouldn't trust a criminal, so why should they be able to vote? Why the voting age should be lowered. Young Americans are already treated like adults. In 22 states, there is no limit for a child to be tried as an adult in court. 13 states have a 12-year-old limit, including Missouri. And the rest of the states have a 13 or above limit. teenagers have a job at 16 and they take care of their families. They start providing for their families. They start paying taxes. They can start driving at 16, so they're participating and being in the community. They can join the military at 17. I personally joined the military at 17, so why couldn't I vote then? I can die for my country. At 18, they move out, causing a lack of interest in education on the community they live in. How many of you are not from Warrensburg? How many of you know Warrensburg's politics and who knows who the mayor is? See, we don't know these things, and if we're not taught how to, at a young age, to know our own community's politics, then why can't we know the town that we're moving into? The older Americans are voting to shape their future. As I mentioned before, the older Americans are making our decisions for us when otherwise we should be making the decisions for ourselves. It will increase voter turnout at the polls. It's research done by Russell Dalton, and he's credible because he is a research professor at the Center for the Study of Democracy at the University of California. And he found research that if you lower a voting age to 16, it will increase a person's chance, or their decision, or increase their decision by 25% that they will vote in the next election. They have more knowledge about the government going through history classes than the majority of adults. We have to take government history classes through high school, so why not let us vote when we freshly have the knowledge instead of adults when we lose the knowledge as we get older and don't remember it. How the voting age should be lowered. We can make a standardized test for entrance to the voting booth. So anyone 16 and 17 can take this test and have a piece of paper or card saying that they can vote, and they go into the election to vote. Or we can make it an amendment. Brazil actually has the voting age at 16. They have a federal representative democratic republic, which is similar to the U.S. They have an average of 79.54% turnout of their voters. And this is according to Ben Castleback, and he is credible because he is the chief writer and editor of 48 news articles. He has written over hundreds of articles on politics and does extended research about politics. The U.S., there are 58 other countries that have the voting turnout higher than the U.S. The U.S. is 55.5%. That's half of the U.S. Your call to action. I encourage you to look up the local government and find out the politics, laws, and regulations about your town. So here in Warrensburg, find an organization here on campus, get involved, and make decisions, make the campus better. Research what your yearly elections have to offer and which politics can benefit the community. Vote in local, state, and national elections to help decide the future for yourself and children. Thank you.
Awesome, great job.